Hey everyone. On Saturday, May 29th, 2021, we lost one of the great singers of the rock and roll era, B.J. Thomas. An Oklahoma native, he passed away in his home in Arlington, Texas of lung cancer. He was 78 years old. Here at Professor of Rock, we wanted to share our condolences with his wife and family and recognize his incredible contribution to music as his songs continue to inspire. One of my earliest musical memories was hearing Raindrops Keep Falling on my head while watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with my dad.
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
Great memory from long ago. I mean, you could argue that it was one of the first true music videos, well before MTV. I mean, the sound of that beautiful ukulele along with the young everyman B.J. Thomas's sweet voice, it just left a permanent tattoo on your soul. B.J. Thomas is like the Gary Cooper of pop music. He brought such great character to all the songs that he performed. It's truly a unique gift that has allowed him to cross over to many different genres, from pop to country to gospel. It's why so many decades after Butch and Sundance was in theaters, and long after his songs were huge hits on the Top 40 Countdown, we're still listening to those songs. BJ's voice has a soothing, a soulful, and memorable quality that will stay with us as listeners well after that last concert or the record has stopped playing. I mean, just try walking up to anybody and saying the word raindrops. They'll be singing his #1 hit for the rest of the day, no doubt. You could say the same for his other songs like Hey, Won't You Play Another Somebody Done, Somebody Wrong song. One of the longest titles ever to hit the top of the charts. Many of us still know every single word of that tongue-twisting chorus.
Somebody done somebody wrong song.
Years ago, when I was fortunate to do a long interview with B.J. Thomas, I remember that hours before that sit-down, I YouTubed the famous scene from Butch and Sundance to relive that wonderful memory from my childhood. And I distinctly recall that my autistic son, who was 4 years old at the time, I believe, he came running over, hearing that music, and he laid his head on my shoulder, and he watched the entire thing with me. And for hours after that, he was walking around the house singing the chorus to Raindrops. So raindrops keep falling. So cute.
And just like the guy whose feet are too big for...
BJ's songs continue to capture a new generation every day. That's my point. What's great about it is that's now a memory that links my father, who passed on a few years ago, me, and my son all together. And I have no doubt that my own son will introduce it to his own little one someday. That's the power of timeless music and of BJ's powerful instrument. Now, BJ won multiple Grammy Awards. He was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, Country Music Hall of Fame, and he was named one of the 50 greatest AC artists in Billboard history. He was a crossover cowboy, the Gary Cooper of popular music, B.J. Thomas. Now here's an excerpt from that interview that we did, a short recollection from B.J. on recording Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Take a look.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
That was one of my first musical memories, seeing Paul Newman riding around on the bicycle with Catherine Ross. I remember clear as day watching that with my dad, and it's just one of those memories that always lasts.
I had the same memories with it, and then the great musicians that played on it. As it turns out, the song really has such a meaning to it on a personal level, and even, not to make it too big a deal out of it, but even as an American song, the rain can be falling, but, if you're free, you're all right,
Yeah.
So just very fortunate to have gotten in there with a great songwriter and a great composer, Mr. Bacharach.
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
When you first sang it, you were coming out of a case of laryngitis, right? Tell us that story.
I had been on a tour of one-nighters through the Midwest there, Iowa and what have you. And back in that day, I was an alcoholic, and I was a pillhead, and I was on all kinds of things. My wife went with me, and she said, "Man, you're in terrible shape." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, honey." And my wife, Gloria, and I said, I was just having a good time. And so I got out there, and we had a couple of days off, and she had me off everything, and I wasn't drinking or anything. And I was all, sobered up, and I was in pretty good shape. And I had the rehearsal with Bert, man, I couldn't even talk. And my throat was hurting me to the point where I just was complaining about it the whole time. And so she made me go to a doctor, and he looked at it and said, man, this is the worst throat I've ever seen. He said, you can't even speak for 2 weeks. He gave me a B12 shot or what have you, and some pills to shrink my vocal cords. And I got out to Bert's house, and he could see right away that I was off. But, it wasn't the kind of situation where I wasn't going to show up. I mean, I wasn't going to call and say, oh, I'm sick, So I was going to be there tonight, and I was wondering, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be there. And so when we got to the session the next day, he really wasn't thrilled. But I managed to get through the song like 5 times maybe. But I got through it, and one of the guys from the Universal Pictures came up to me and said, that's a good idea, B. And I said, what's a good idea? And he said, well, you're trying to sound like you're Paul. Like it's Paul singing, I'm like, so I thought, well, okay. I didn't say that. Yeah, I just rolled with it. The fact that it was a little rough and it wasn't real smooth kind of worked. And
that's the version they used on the movie.
Yeah, they used that in the bicycle scene. And of course, they won the Oscar for the best song. And
you sang at the Oscars.
Yeah, sang at the
Oscars. Yeah.
I was going to tell that. I forgot. I sang at the Oscars, and it was a big production number, man.
Oh, yeah.
Bicycles and all that stuff. And I was so scared, man.
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
Just one of the huge memories for me. And I missed a couple of words in the bridge. I came down and sat on the stairs, and I looked up and I kind of locked eyes with Jane Fonda. And I kind of forgot one thing I know. And I always felt like I blew it.
Well, Jane Fonda's a pretty woman, so I'm sure I can understand.
Yeah. I know the blues they sing to meet me.
About 40 years later, I'm very good friends with Greg Yantek, who's the head of ABC Television Music. He told me, he said, BJ said, I can get you a DVD of your performance on the Oscar. Would you like to see it? And I said, well, yeah. So anyway, he sent it to me, and it really was nice. It came off well, and I'm glad he showed me, because it kind of the load came off my shoulder. I said, okay, you pulled it off.
It's been inducted in the Grammy Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
As well. It was on Spider-Man 2. It got reintroduced to a new generation.
Big for his bed, nothing seems to fit.
Also Billboard's top 100 songs of all time. What award hasn't it won?
It's just it's incredible.
Timeless.
And it was an unbelievable thing that it even happened, because everything they wrote was a classic. Like Alfie and Close to You and all that. Everything they wrote was a classic. So for this song to jump out like that, when actually they asked Hal, to not write a great song, just write a silly song.
Yeah.
And for it to stand out like that, it's pretty cool.
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
But that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be.
Over the years, it just gained in value as to what it meant to me personally and professionally. I guess I was fortunate to get the song to begin with, and then all of a sudden, I've gotten to the place over the years that I almost feel honored that I had the thing, and I'm so blessed to have had that song the way it lives on.
Because I'm free.